Celia, we are working on our own show.
Yeah.
Which is called DJ Buttons. And this reminds me of this.
Well, it's your show.
It's sort of, it's my idea of a play, which is about half of Cinderella. And it's a DJ, a lowly DJ whose job is to push the right buttons in a studio. And they managed to meet a visiting star singer because the resident proper DJs are off meeting the mayor or something. There's some reason how DJ Buttons meets this singer, and then they managed to get the singer to take one of their songs.
Yeah.
And so this is like a fantastic event, which comes about halfway through, but then midnight strikes and it all goes back to normal.
Mm.
And the form this takes is that the studio the radio station discover about this, and this is the part which my colleague John here is going to play. He's not really a pro-man. Well, he's not against management, but he's not a management person at this time. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to get him to play slightly against type, as being the representative of the radio company, who say, DJ Buttons, you should have read the memo. All music publishing is through our company. You are sacked, and we're going to take over all the publishing because of our relationship with the rest of the management companies, blah, 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 etc., etc. So with your HR experience, is there any guidance you could give as to how John should approach this role?
I wouldn't worry too much about HR accuracy when you're creating art. I think if we did that, it would hold us back far too much. You know, characters would have to stop mid-scene and fill out a form, no doubt.
Oh.
Too much paper in HR. And that would make for very dull theatre. To be honest, it makes for quite dull work environment. But, you know, I don't think it would help the plot to move along swiftly. I think what we're looking for in theatre or comedy is for things to be grounded in reality, but to take a leap on from reality, because then we're delighted with it. It actually is more delightful that a manager behaves atrociously than it is that they behave really well. So for him to walk in and say, right, that's it, you're sacked, that's much more fun than, well, you know, I'm just going to sit you down and this is the first written warning.
Okay.
You know, it just kind of shoots the heat out at the moment, doesn't it? I think it's better to go full-on theatrical outrageousness, and we can enjoy that, knowing that it wouldn't be quite like that in real life. Because I think it's still true that most drama and most comedy is based on conflict. You know, we love it when two things bang up against each other. You know, when one person's comic flaw bangs up against another person's comic flaw. That's a quote from Logan Murray, who wrote a book called Getting Started in Stand-Up Comedy, and I studied with Logan last year in France. I went on one of his intensives, and he said, you know, you've just got to work out for every character, what is their comic flaw? You know, what's the chink in their armour? You know, so if you think about Mrs. Bouquet, if you remember that character from television, you know, she was just impossibly house proud. She was proud. She was proud. You know, pride was her downfall. And so everything that she does comes from the comic flaw of her being just too proud. You know, she can't let it go. She has to be called Bouquet. She won't be called Bucket, which is her actual name. And you know, that kind of identifying what is it that is stupid about this person that they can't see about themselves, probably, that they're ignorant to. And then you play that comic flaw in that character, and then in the other character you play another comic flaw, and it's just so fun to watch them bang up against each other.
Right. Okay. You know, so John,
another person is messy. You know, that is the stuff of theatre or comedy, isn't it?
Right. So we're not going to go for any authenticity or great detail in our methods. We're just going to have a. Yeah, John's nodding here. I think you know how to do this now. Yeah, that'll be all right. Okay, well, thank you for that one.
You're welcome.
And we've got other plays that we're working on. One of the things I'll just mention is playwrights for hire, who are I think towards the end of the festival, but for £1 they will take any ideas that you've got and create a one-page play, which is a pretty good offer.
Yeah.
So we're going to ask them to sort it all out, and we'll see what they make of it. I think by the end of it, they've got a 1 hour at the Barnfield, and they'll select the best bits. So I don't know if our DJ Buttons is going to get in there, but
we'll have to go, isn't it?
We just have to give it a go, don't we?
You have to give it a go. You know, the thing about making art is if you hold back because you don't think it will work, or people won't like it, or it's going to fail, then nothing changes. You just sit in your living room, being a legend there, with a few ideas on paper stuffed in a drawer. And actually, you're no better off or worse off than you were before, so you feel safe, but you're not fully expressing yourself, and you're not taking part in the world, you know, and you're not creating art. So I think one of the great things that I've learned over such a long period of time being in the performing arts is to get it out there, to just go for it. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's you just create the work that you feel passionate about, show it to people, take the feedback. You know, don't be arrogant about it. Don't go, well, you completely misunderstand. You know, I'm a genius. You know, listen to what people say, and then work on it, make it better, and get better at your craft, and then go back out there and do it again. And the more you do that, the less shame you feel, or embarrassment, or nerves. It just becomes your job. You know, for me, this is now my job, is to write shows and perform them, and come up with creative ideas, and collaborate with other people on comedy and art, you know, and just get on with it. I think that's something my director's been really good at telling me. He's like, yeah, Delaney, just get up there and do your job.
So how finished is the work you're going to show in Exeter then? I mean, because it would be quite reasonable to try things out there, and by the time we get to Camden, it'll be slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great warm-up for Camden, that's absolutely true. But in both cases, it is a work in progress. So particularly in Camden, it's billed as a WIP, as they say, a work in progress. So that gives you a bit of an excuse with the audience to say, look, this isn't the finished article. And the idea is that I'm working it up for Edinburgh 2020, so that by the time I'm doing previews for Edinburgh next year, which you typically do about 6 or 7 performances before Edinburgh to really tighten up the show, and that would be mostly in London, those previews, but you could, you know, might go to other areas if I think there's an audience. That would be May, June, July next year, doing previews, and then the full run at Edinburgh is what I'm planning to do with this show. So that's the finished article there. I mean, in some ways you're never finished with a show, but I think it does tend to settle down that you don't change much of it, and then the idea is you do Edinburgh and then you tour off the back of it, not necessarily not a national tour, although hey, I'm available, but more sort of come back and maybe do it again in London a little bit and get as many people to see that show as you can, and then it's kind of had its shelf life and you move on to the next one, and that can be a cycle of around 18 months, maybe a bit longer. If the show is successful, it will run for a bit longer. So I'm in the run-up to this show. This is new. I've been writing it since January. So it's finished enough to show it on Monday. It's running currently at 50 minutes. But it might go a bit longer in performance if people are actually laughing. That will make it it's amazing how many minutes that can add. And at the moment, I run it for my director, and he doesn't laugh at all.
Right.
He just has his head in his hands. It's despair. So I can't really tell if it's funny or not, because I really need a proper audience now. I've got to that stage where he's given as much feedback as he wants to for now. I've worked really hard on it, tried making it funnier, tried to make it clearer in terms of the narrative. I've written 3 songs that are in it, so I usually do full musical shows, musical comedy shows, but this one just has 3 songs and a lot more speaking, because I'd like to do more stand-up comedy jokes and stories within it. So I don't know, it's not finished, but it won't be totally rough either. You sometimes go to see a work in progress and people are really reading off their notes or a notebook. It's very apparent that they wrote it on the train coming and they're just trying it out now. It won't be like that. It will be halfway between that and the finished show.
Yeah, but I think that's really what Fringe festivals should be about.
Yeah, yeah, it's a real help to be able to come to a festival, to give them the opportunity to show it to people. I mean, it's a 50, 60 seater, I think I'm in at the Barnfield Theatre Studio. It's selling quite well. I think there's 20 tickets have gone now, so still some tickets to go, and people are promising me.
So how many tickets are left, do you think?
Say probably 30. Yeah.
30?
Yeah.
It's not a lot, is it?
No, but it's still, like, I'd really like to sell it out. So.
Well, what is it? Today's Wednesday.
Yeah, so the weekend will be really key for sales. Because for a festival, people book really late, you know. And they can pay on the door as well at the Barnfield Theatre, that's fine. But it's just, you know, guys, I've got to keep at night. I quite like to know that it's selling well. It is.
Yes, well, we'll try and have a go with that. Because I'm not, well, as I said, earlier on, I thought August was just a hopeless month anyway, but now I understand that a bit better. I think there's every prospect of doing something well in August if you give it a try. Mm-hmm. But also, shall we get on to sales and social media?
If you like, yeah.
Because we can experiment with those 30 tickets and see whether we, you know, what we can do to support that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've made a YouTube clip.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what is the process? Somebody sees the YouTube bit and then they think, "Am I in Exeter?" Well, probably they're not, are they? Because if how many views do you expect to get on YouTube, and how is that going to translate into tickets?
Well, I probably won't get that many views because we're only putting it up 1 week prior to the show. So it could have been a bit earlier with that, and that's just because my to-do list is so long. I haven't got around to it. I'm still doing press and things like that for Exeter. And it's partly the problem with being in two fringes. It's just a lot of work to do. So it's currently had 2 views. It was put up a day ago. So very low, but we haven't plugged it yet. We haven't put it out yet. So what does make a difference is if I put it in my newsletter, a lot more people will view it. I have about 1,800 people on my newsletter, of whom about 800 are in Devon. So that was historical being there.
Right.
And so if we feature that YouTube video, what we do is we make a little thumbnail photo of it and put a play button on it. I have a team that does that for me. I know how to do it. And they put it in the newsletter. And then we'll get a lot more views driven from that mailing list. So that's by email. That's one way of doing it. The other thing is to then post it on social media platforms. So I have an assistant, Mel, who's incredible, who does all of that for me. So I don't really take part in that. She'll schedule that. What I do is make the content. Like I made the video and I'll just send it to her on WhatsApp, and then she takes it from there. And she today is doing an Instagram takeover for Exeter Fringe. So the way it works is they've let her log in out them, and she's going to post loads of interesting stuff about the Fringe, and she's going to do about 10 posts, I think, today for Exeter Fringe. So that's really exciting. So if you are on Instagram and you want to look at Exeter Fringe Festival, which is X Fringe is their name, then we are on it today. Yeah, Mel's running it today. Of course, she's recently plugging my show. but also what we'll do through the day, I'll be in contact with her as well, is one of the things she's done is to talk about guest blogs that other people have written. We'll also highlight some shows that we like the look of, that I might go and see. You know, so we'll also talk about the Fringe as a whole, festival as a whole, not just my show. That would get very boring for everyone. So yeah, that's another thing that you can do. So X Fringe has got 400 followers on Instagram. So not very high. They could really do with building up.
No, because I'm not trying to be critical of what they're doing, but it does take time to build up a good list of followers. I noticed like the Camden Fringe has got nearly 9,000 or something on Twitter.
Yeah.
Which over 13 years, well, Twitter hasn't been going for 13 years, I don't suppose, but
14 years it's been going.
So it takes a while, doesn't it, to get the following?
Yeah.
But it does seem to me that's a very useful thing. If there's but I'm just trying to get a sense of what the numbers would be. I think there's 4,000 brochures being printed for Exeter,
Right.
and I don't think it's 1,000 followers on Twitter. So you can't say what the proportion. What is the proportion of people who might see a tweet who then go and look in a printed brochure? I think all those questions. Maybe it's silly. My friend John thinks I sometimes get too silly and get into technical details which don't really matter.
I think you overanalyse it, but I would say that the standard understanding of how to market.
Oh,
I didn't do anything.
No.